Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Going to spend time with my friend Lee Kaplan with Smizer, Kaplan, and Veselka, the law firm here in Houston. And always love getting him on the program. Sometimes he talks about what's happening in the current events in the political front. Sometimes he talks about what's happening in the legal arena. Today we're going to focus particularly on the political front, some important current events that the listener should be aware of. And Lee, before we get into that, do you want to mention the website is skv.com. Tell us a little bit about your practice.
Well, our firm has been primarily civil litigation, and we continue to do that, all sorts of commercial lawsuits. We have recently added two partners who specialize in white-collar criminal matters, Sean Clark, a former assistant United States attorney, and Dane Ball, both of whom also clerk for federal judges, and they are heavily involved in the Deepwater Horizon matter, and they are people we're really glad to have, very gifted and great personalities and effective criminal defense attorneys, both for white-collar criminal matters as well as internal investigations that companies often need to undertake because they have a question about whether people inside have acted honestly and ethically and within the law. So our firm has just expanded by their addition, plus a young lawyer, Alex Wolf, and we're very proud of these acquisitions. They're all former United States judicial clerks, really bright, have a lot of moxie. So we're looking forward to 2015.
Sounds like it. Very good. Congratulations. Now, what topics do you have for us today?
Well, what's interesting to me, particularly because Greg Abbott is in the middle of them, is all of the cases that Texas has against the United States. And the ones that, come to mind the most, or the issues that come to mind the most, are the voter ID issue, the immigration issue, which has, of course, come to the front burner again, the environment, which is a big deal because the EPA is now looking for another way to enforce some restrictions on power plants based on its ability to regulate or protect the air in national parks. And, of course, the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and the current dispute over whether or not the law allows the United States to set up a federal exchange when the law just talks about state-run exchanges. So there are a lot of issues out there, and I think it'll be difficult for the governor to disentangle himself from them because he's been the person who has sued the United States so often.
Wouldn't this become the job of the new Attorney General?
Well, yes, and our new Attorney General has got a little bit of difficulty himself. He is, I don't know if the word is ethically challenged, but he's got a real problem with his own compliance with the Texas securities laws, and he may be under some additional investigation. So I think there may be some more developments with Senate. That's a former Republican state senator, Ken Paxton.
Paxton, yeah.
And I don't really know how effective he's going to be as an attorney general. It's just too early to say. He's never had a statewide office, and although the Texas governor allegedly is not very powerful, I think we'll find Greg Abbott exercising almost as much power in his first term as Governor Perry did in his latter terms.
Well, and I think my experience with an understanding of Greg Abbott is he's incredibly focused and extremely disciplined. And I think that although he has concern and interest about those issues that you raised, and he certainly was a centerpiece in those issues, I don't think he's going to let him get between him and his new responsibility. That's my gut.
Well, some might wonder whether the governor's new responsibility is running for president. We have at least two, but I think three people who have caught that bug: Governor Perry, Senator Cruz, and soon-to-be Governor Abbott. And I think that Governor Abbott's involvement, at least from the lectern, regarding these lawsuits, which he filed, is going to continue to be near the forefront. And frankly,
and a lot of those
win some of them.
A lot of those issues, I think, pertain directly to the job of governor as well. I think whether or not, the perceptions of borders and that type of thing. In this whole context of that conversation, I was curious to get your thoughts on the fact that Dan Patrick won 52% of the Latino male vote. I don't think there's any candidate who had border security, really an anti-immigration stance, let's, call it what it was, than Dan Patrick. Your thoughts about that? 52% of the Latino male vote. It's shocking.
Well,
the holy grail for Republicans with Hispanics has been 40%.
I think that does say something. In Texas, I believe that people have continually overestimated the potential for Hispanic turnout, but they have continually underestimated the basic conservative bent of many Hispanic voters, those who do turn out, because the Hispanic community is very family-oriented. It's more Catholic, of course, than the rest of the voting community, and I think there is a very good chance that they'll turn out to be more conservative than people expect. Now, many people have criticized the campaign that some of the Democratic candidates ran, but frankly, all of them got roughly 39%. And Dan Patrick's vote total, despite his presumed ethical challenges and the fact that he was even more conservative than anybody else, got pretty much the same percentage as everybody else. My recollection is he got about 57, 58% of the vote. Other Republicans statewide got, like Greg Abbot, I think got 59. So not much of a difference there.
At least to another question. They were expecting, for example, Wendy Davis to do far better than she did. Her percentage was actually less than the last Democrat who ran statewide for governor. Kind of a blow for Democrats.
Well, I, of course, don't think of myself as any political expert or junkie, so I don't know that I had these expectations, and maybe some did, but sometimes people get a little bit overheated in their enthusiasm. I think the assumption was that she would draw in more women voters, and I think that's a plausible expectation, but it didn't happen, and candidly, Greg Abbott is a sympathetic figure, is generally regarded as somebody who's overcome immense challenges. He is very disciplined, so I don't regard these results as that surprising.
Interesting. That's a good insight. It's one thing to run, it's one thing to govern. What do you expect from a Greg Abbott as governor?
Well, first of all, I think that now that he's won election, he will probably make appointments that are a little more balanced than Governor Perry. I think he'll be very sensitive to the charges of cronyism. On this Cancer Prevention Research Institute, Greg Abbott pretty much abdicated his responsibilities there when he was on the board. He had a deputy going who missed maybe a third of the meetings. They gave a ton of money away, many of the recipients being Republican donors and Abbott donors. I think he, particularly if he has his eye on the presidency, is going to be fairly sensitive to ethical issues, as Governor Perry, to my way of thinking, was not. So that the Texas Enterprise Fund may get revised significantly or even cut back, particularly in a time where we've got some funding issues. This Cancer Prevention Research Institute of Texas is going to be scrutinized carefully. I think the governor's appointments will not be as conservative as the campaign he ran. That
was a great segment. Thanks so much for Lee Kaplan, and you can learn more about him at skv.com. I got to get him back on, and soon, to carry on this conversation right here on The Price of Business, Business Talk 1110 AM.